Yeah, this question really relates very much to me and my own career. So sort of dear to my heart here, and I immediately just became so interested in working with these students and their writing. They were students from all over the world. I had a lot of Chinese students who lived through the Cultural Revolution and were here, the dream of getting an education, and a lot of students from former Soviet, from at the time it was still the Soviet Union, and students from Haiti, students from all over the place. And they just had so much to say, so much to write about, and their language, which many people couldn't cope with. To me, their linguistic diversity was a source of strength. These were resources that they had with different ways of using language that I found very appealing. No, their grammar wasn't totally standard English, but they had other things that I saw as resources. So this just became my population, my interest. It became my focus of my doctoral work and my dissertation, and then the book that came out of that. What's interesting now with this translingual theory is that it explains in a beautifully well-reasoned theoretical way what I sensed about these students and why I found it so interesting to work with them. And so I brought a couple of segments from, this is the 2013, July 2013, Emerging Voices, where Minjian Liu and Bruce Horner have developed the translingual language idea even more than he did in his standalone piece. They've been working on this with John Trimber and others. And it emerges from those theories, all the theories that you've mentioned, Dewey, et cetera. But it seems to apply especially well to working with multilingual students. So I'm going to read a couple of very short passages from their article on translingual literacy. Without discounting the significant difficulties in working across languages as traditionally conceived, we argue that those difficulties must be recognized as, in fact, the norm, rather than evidence of the deviance of those confronting them. Doing so can help us better address the extra difficulties historically shouldered by writers designated by dominant culture as non-native users of English. Their idea is that we're always constructing writing and language, that every new context is a source of new language, that it's not this stable, fixed phenomenon that's centered in space, but it's in time and space, and it's always different, and we're always constructing. And so translingual and multilingual writers is what I mean, are really no different from the rest of us in that. And that was sort of a tenet of my own teaching. Some of my colleagues would say, oh, it's just so heterogeneous, I can't cope with this, I want them all at the same level, I would like to have only ESL students, but to me that diversity was a resource because I was attracted to all this linguistic diversity. On the next page they write, until we see translinguality as relevant to and operating in the learning and writing of all writers, whether marked by the dominant as mainstream or non-mainstream, the art and struggle of writers from subordinated groups will always be dismissed as irrelevant to the work of mainstream learners. And I think this is a very rich area of study and pedagogy, so I hope to see that develop more and more. And by all of you and your teaching. In CUNY, we have to see it this way, I think. And with the way the population is changing, I think people all over the country have to see it this way. So many people are multilingual in every college class. And to think of those with a different language background from whatever standard English is as being non-mainstream and sort of deviant, it just won't work anymore, I think, population the way it is now.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Yeah, I agree. The classrooms are more diverse than ever. That's true. It also brings to the classroom a much harder task for the teacher to discover common levels of technical expertise from which to launch a project, something like that. Okay, so I'll say we all command this level of expertise, so let's use that to move forward. When there are so many different diverse narratives brought to the classroom and diverse avenues to English and so on. It makes the argument. It makes the argument for individual mentoring even stronger. So then the next question becomes, what is the group setting good for? It's very good for peer exchange. That is, if we could meet with our translingual and multilingual students and mentoring them individually and work from their current command of technical expertise on a project suitable for them. That's good, and that'll be very helpful. There should be a group setting in which they bring the results of their work and report to the group, and then the group they have like an audience, which is extremely valuable. They should get feedback from the audience. It may not be necessary to have them all meet in the development of their texts. As their text development, the problems that they're encountering in making the text happen could be useful. And so then we could do what K-12 teachers in Japan invented some years back called lesson study. That is, you're working on something and you figure out that, well, I'm going to try to do this with this problem, and here's what happened when I did it, and it went that way okay, but stop there. So you make that kind of like a reflective report to your peers who are working on something similar, and then the group undertakes responsibility of like helpful feedback to what to do next. So for that purpose, especially in a multilingual class, it could be very useful.
Step forward, steps back.